You! Get out of the boat! Get in the truck!
Roger, solid copy. Moving to your position time now.
Copy that.
Take this time. Scout out. Copy.
What are you doing here? Invading another country yet again.
Fuck you, asshole.
No, fuck
yourself.
you!
Fuck all of you! You go to hell!
Corporal Maine, he's escaped! Release the hunter, he's escaped! He's escaped! Release the hunter, he's escaped!
All right, guys, what's going on, grunts? We are live. This is the episode 2 after party. We're going to do a live chat with the contestants and Stoker. You guys can ask some questions. We'll go over some things from episode 1 and 2. So let me bring them in. Let me know in the comments how you guys like that one. So we got Brent, Stoker, and Jared in no specific order. Cheers, guys. So I missed a question from the first episode, and this guy, let's see, what's his name? Got to give him a shout out. So Joseph, he wanted to know what you guys specifically used from your preparation while you were out there. So any like specific PT programs, publications, like, you know, Army manuals, field manual stuff, education, any kind of formal training you might have had. So we could go with, let's go with Brent. He's the first survivor up.
So, you know, for those of you that don't know, I'm still in the United States Marine Corps Reserve, actively serving there. So, you know, I'm always PTing. You know, I maintain a first class PFT, Marine Corps standards. I've never fell out of a hump. I've been to Bridgeport, the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Facility, many times. And that's very similar terrain to what we were up in California. So I knew I was going to be pretty comfortable navigating in those mountains. And so with that said, you know, I didn't do anything special per se, just my standard, you know, typical routine of just, you know, staying fit and maintaining that, you know, first class level of physical fitness per the Marine Corps standards. So.
All right, Jared, what you got, man?
So my cardio definitely lacks. my job itself is very physical. It's like lifting weights for 10 hours a day. So in preparation for that, I was doing a lot of rucking, a lot of hiking, for probably 5-6 months prior to coming out to you guys. But overall, my job is it's a very physical job, and that in itself keeps me in shape.
All right. Stoker, we didn't get to do any of this from the first season. So do you want to add to that? Anything you used in your prep before coming out there, and then what you actually used on the ground?
Sure. I mean, Tears of a Kami always help.
You got the Rainier?
Yeah, I do. Local favorite. I mean, anybody who's going to go try to participate in something like this is going to try to gather as much, intelligence about the particular AO as you can. But nothing once it gets started. Any of those granular details, they all fade away because you can't remember everything that there is to know about the terrain because you don't know where the hell you're at, when it all gets started. So, I mean, the PT portion is big, of course, and quite highly underrated, which I'm glad the other two dudes, we're just bringing that up because it is pretty tough on you, moving through. So, but if you try to get, snoopy and try to dig into things and try to overanalyze things, like at the end of the day, I just don't think it's going to do you too much good.
Yeah, and there was a lot. It's YouTube, it's the internet, and so I got a lot of awesome feedback from the first season, so that was cool. But there's always people that they either just don't like it, and that's all there is to it. But I know I definitely didn't showcase the physical aspect of it enough. So when people didn't seem to grasp that from the first season, I put that on me. So that will be fixed in this season. So you guys saw Brent has escaped, and I'm going to be showing kind of like some stats on what the guys are actually dealing with physically. So like elevation gain and all that stuff. And yeah, it's lessons learned. So we're working on it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Randall, I just want to jump in on the cardio piece again. So it's like you hear people talk about all the time, like cardio is God, and obviously it plays a big factor. But it being up in the mountains like that, it's a completely different beast. So if you ignore, like weight training, and like working out your legs and carrying a ruck, or just being used to carrying load bearing equipment over a terrain like that. Plus you're up in the mountains, less oxygen and everything else. I've seen dudes that, probably run 300 PFT, freaking run 3 miles in 18 minutes. And then they get up in these hikes up in the mountains, and they got a fucking, 80-pound ruck on, and they're just dying. They can't hang. So it's like being up in the mountains, it's just a different level of physical fitness. So it's just, you got to be completely well-rounded. And I think that kind of gets overlooked sometimes by certain individuals, when you look at these guys that are like wirely built, like little stick dudes that can run forever and seem like they got no lungs, but then you get them up in the mountains, and they can't hack it up there.
Right. And we learned that the hard way when I went to Ramadi. I had some crusty old sergeant majors that didn't want us to use the gym and do weights and stuff. It was all standard Army PT, push-ups, sit-ups, and run every single day. And when we hit the ground in Ramadi, the Marines were outrunning us because they were doing weight training and a lot of heavy combat training in their gear. And we could all run super fast and do, 100 push-ups in 2 minutes, but climbing up and down stairs, jumping over rooftops and all that with 50 pounds of gear on, we got to learn the hard way that weight training is also important. So I got you guys can go ahead and start throwing some questions in there to the contestants. But Brent, we're so everybody's seen you've been captured, did your interrogation. So we kind of went into your thoughts as you were getting captured. So let's go from, just to get it started, what was going through your mind as that truck pulled away and, you know, getting off the truck, getting into the tent, like as things are happening, what's kind of going through your mind from that point?
You know, it was just a little surreal, you know, because you guys played it up so well that the stuff was going to start in the morning, right? Yeah, I mean, you didn't flat out say like, "Oh, we're going to start first thing in the morning," you know, but you guys played it off so well. You know, you gave me a mission. I'd already known going into this that so many things were going to change from what happened in the first season. So it's like by the time I left that second barn where you gave me that reconnaissance mission at going back, I'm like, you know, smoking and joking pretty much, because I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be awesome. You know, I'm gonna, you know, go do this reconnaissance mission and then, you know, make my way to the end point after that. And then, you know, out of the blue, freaking spotlights come on and I get captured. Next thing I know, I'm flexi cuffed in the back of a truck. So there was one thing I didn't see in the episode. Maybe I missed it, but it's like, I remember getting, and again, I got a freaking like sandbag or pillowcase over my head, so I couldn't see, but I got, at some point you guys stopped and transferred me to another vehicle. And I was like in the back of I knew it was in a tight confined space. And I was back there for a while. And then I think I got switched over to another vehicle again. So there was like some moving around. And I remember just kind of thinking to myself, like, you know, I got to try to start figuring out where I'm at, you know, like where, you know, what am I going to do? Like when can be the right moment to make my escape? And the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, there's got to be the right moment, right? I have to figure out where I'm at. I have to grab some type of gear, whether that's water or some, you know, load bearing equipment. Something's got to be there to facilitate my escape so that I can survive out in the elements, right? So it's like the whole time I'm there, I'm just looking for something, those indicators, like, okay, that's the load bearing equipment that I need to steal. You know, this is where I'm at. This is where I need to go. I probably need to head in this direction. You know, what's around this room, you know, get into the tent, like what's around this tent that I can grab when I make my escape. You know, when am I going to have the opportunity to make this escape? Who's on guard? How many guys are outside, you know, on watch, you know, stuff like that. That's all the stuff that's processing in my mind as you know, I'm getting interrogated by the lead communist down there, Comrade Stoke Maskey.
Yeah, so you know, it's funny you mentioned switching vehicles. Me and Stoker thought that was cool. It was actually the same truck. We just put you inside for a little bit of the drive. Some of that was to keep you confused and keep you guessing, you know, so you couldn't keep a pace count, and also for your safety. There was some serious off-roading there that you probably would have fallen off and died. Like, I don't know how many people have experience being flexi cuffed and blindfolded in the back of a truck at night without you know, sides on the bed. So, but yeah, some of it's to confuse you. So I just brought up my own question. Were you counting the time, like seconds, or trying to figure out which direction you were headed or how far away you were or anything?
No, honestly, with that blindfold. So I had, I think I had a cravat over my eyes, and then I had a pillowcase over my head. So it's like I really couldn't see crap. I could see some lighting, you know, like headlights and stuff like that through the pillowcase and the blindfold. But that's about it. I was mainly going on like feel. So when you guys moved me from the back of that flatbed to, I guess, inside the cab, which I felt like I got moved to a completely different vehicle. You know, when I was inside there, I was like bumping stuff with my knees and my elbows to kind of like feel what was around me, but I couldn't tell if I had a guard right next to me or not. Like, those are the kind of things I was trying to do while I was inside that vehicle, trying to figure out like, hey, do I have a guard on me right now, or am I inside? It felt like I was in the back of some sort of enclosed box. So.
Okay, cool. And yeah, that's all part of it, is keeping you guessing so you have no idea. So I don't remember telling you, by the way, guys, all of Brent's reactions from capture all the way up to the end of it, it's all totally real. He didn't get any any real cues. I basically told him there were some points where I knew you were looking for times to escape, which is what you're supposed to do. But anytime I saw that moment pop up, I would just kind of tell you, like, you're not escaping yet, just to make sure, because there's some places if you would have escaped, you wouldn't have worked out well. So be running through my neighbor's yards and stuff. But everything else was totally like your own live reactions, which is, again, it was really cool that, Stoker actually pulled a live pistol off of you. Like we carry in the woods. That's what we do. So that's kind of evidence of that. So I had some people talking about the interrogation and stuff. So now that people have seen it, it's cool we get to talk about that. So I want to go to Stoker. So I basically gave Stoker some guidelines, just a couple basic questions, like 4 or 5 or something. And then he turned that into 3 hours of harassing Brent and totally improvised it and made some pretty awesome stuff. So what did you how did you get into that mindset, and how did you actually get all this running? Because people should hear that was all on the fly how you did it, and it was very similar to how it would go, at least in our training.
Yeah. Well, first off, Eric Coleman in the house.
We got Coleman in here. All right.
Yeah, we do. It really was on the fly. I mean, we had talked, and I think that's something I wanted to share at the last live event, but I couldn't because of the commies. Months of prep work, before we all got there, and certainly all the months that you put in afterwards. And in that, we talked and I thought about things, and but truthfully, I was more concerned about getting our initial recons done in the area, getting everything set up, than I was on focusing on specific minor details, like with the interrogation. So there was no real punch list that I went through to try to get ready. I just tried to do the best job I could for you and for the show and for Brent to make sure it was something worthwhile.
Yeah, you need acting classes.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. I'm not a comic.
It was great, man. Like, people don't realize military training, when we're doing role playing, you're gonna have some fun with it, and a lot of it's going to be on the fly, and that's kind of part of it. So the training side of it is the guys involved in the training actually taking it seriously, which Brent did pretty well. Yeah, and I think like the way you improvised it, when I did my training, it was there was multiple people interrogating us and dealing with us, and so you had the good guys, the evil guys, and all that, and so it was pretty cool to watch you improv it and be able to flip flop like that. And so I wonder if people caught it, but there were certain moments where I could tell you made Brett a little bit uncomfortable. So I would kind of zoom in on his face a little bit, and just to kind of show the realism, like when you mention his family and when you touch on topics like that, like, people hear interrogation and they think we got to be waterboarding a guy and, hanging him upside down by his junk, but it's a lot of it's psychological, and then you got the discomfort. So waterboarding is always on the table, guys, by the way, but in 20-degree weather, you don't have to do something like that. So Brent, with that being said, how'd you like sitting in that freezing ass tent for 6 plus hours?
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's not something you can extrapolate from the. I'm glad you put the temperatures up, but it's like watching that, you're not thinking the average Joe probably isn't watching that thinking like, oh, he must be freezing his ass off right now, right? Because you can't tell how cold it is unless you see that temperatures. So, but yeah, I got that. I just have a base layer on in the the cami blouse, and I was thinking about the other day. It was like 30 something degrees here in Texas. It was cold as hell, right? And I'm outside. I'm like, damn, I need to go get my jacket or whatever. And then, I'm watching this grunt proof challenge today, and seeing the temperatures dropping down to where they're at. I'm like, holy fuck, you know, I was wearing just a freaking, you know, cami blouse. So I remember, you know, I had my hands flexi cuffed, and then I remember trying to keep my hands close to my upper torso, to my body, for two reasons. One, to try to, you know, retain heat as much as possible. So I had that, you know, going to my head. And then plus one of my flexi cuffs was a little bit looser than the other. And it was just loose enough that I thought I might be able to get my hand out of it when the time came. So I wanted to conceal that. Right. So I was trying to keep that hand behind the other. So that was another reason, like when you guys see me, like I got my hands up here the whole time. So I'm like trying to stay warm and conceal that flexi cuff at the same time. So that was my thinking at the time, but it was chilly.
It was cold.
Yeah, I made sure to do some slow-mo when we take the hood off of your head a couple times, and you see your breath. And I don't know if people called it, but you could see, you know, just the frost from you guys in there breathing and stuff. Like that whole tent was frosted over. And by the time you escaped, it got down to 19 degrees, I think. And it was, I was pretty comfy and cozy, but I still woke up pretty cold. One of the bad guys woke up freezing his ass off. And I'm just thinking, like, Brent's got to be hating life right now.
Yeah. And on top of that, you guys got to remember, I'm sitting in a metal chair, not moving, you know, so it's like that metal chair is just like sucking my body heat right out of me, and I'm not moving. So it's not like I can get up and start doing jumping jacks and like get my blood flowing, right? I'm sitting there in a metal chair, stationary. So that just like quadruples the suck factor.
Yeah,
I remember.
I went. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say, you know, on the temps, you know, not only was it cold, but Rig's water bowl completely froze over. It was balls cold.
Yeah. So with that, well, you know, we can't get to that. Let's throw Jared up there real quick. So, Jared, what are you doing at my place up there at night by yourself? I know we had an escort with you, keeping you in line, but you're doing some kind of mental prep. You're going out there as the hunter. That's going to start in episode 3. So what's your prep while you're hanging out up there by the nice warm fire and eating our food and stuff?
Well, a lot of it is just mindset. I think you said it at some point it was 19 degrees. It never felt 19 degrees to me, even when I was the survivor. And I think when you're being interrogated or you have something to distract you from your environment like that, it kind of helps a little bit, and you don't quite feel it as much. When you're left alone listening to meow meow music and Milli Vanilli, it kind of soaks into you a little bit. But no, I was trying to get some sleep up there. I don't think I slept but an hour each night, at least for the first 3 nights, because I'm in my own head about everything, trying to anticipate scenarios, and trying to go along with everything at the same time. So it's definitely a mental game more than anything else.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the prep and not sleeping and being on edge. Like, you know, I have, going off of this, Stoker and I did a lot of behind the scenes bouncing ideas off of each other, and I would tell him like a lot of my plans. I had a list of stuff they did to me in my course, and I also looked up refreshers, like to see what they're still doing in these courses. And so we had a lot of options, and you know, people should remember, I'm going to mention it in one of the later episodes, but you know, everybody, or at least Brent and Jared, had spent a full day traveling to get out there. So Brent's traveled all freaking day. And I'm actually going to mention, I estimated about how long you had been up by the end of it. And it's pretty killer. And that's just for your first part. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So you're sitting there freezing your ass off. You got all the stuff going on in your mind. You got Bill harassing you, and you're tired. And you know, you eventually have to get to the actual escape and event. So yeah, I had fun watching you guys deal with that. And I just would pull out my phone and look at my list of things to mess with you guys. And it's cool you mentioned not being able to get up and do jumping jacks and stuff to stay warm, because stress positions and workouts and stuff, that's always an option. But I chose not to do those because I knew if we made you get into like an iron chair or something like that, it might warm you up. So I'm just like, I would just let him sit there and be cold. He's sitting still, freezing. That's uncomfortable enough. So Brent, you can answer that question. Did they undo the flexi cuffs before bed, or did you end up having to break out without spoiling too much?
No, when it came time to sleep, they were like, "Hey, we're going to execute you in the morning. Um, here's a wool blanket, and I think there was like a poncho liner. So it's like it's freezing cold, and they give me a wool blanket, a poncho liner, and they're like, sleep there." So I laid down with that. I'm freezing my fucking ass off. I still got the flexi cuffs on, but when I was in there and underneath the wool blanket, I was able to slip my one wrist out of the flexi cuff, so I knew I could do it right. And then I put it back in, just to make sure if they came in and woke me back up, like I'm still flexi cuffed, right? But that's when I came time to make my escape. I was able to get that one hand on, but you guys will see later on in the third episode, like I still have the flexi cuffs on me for a minute. So I can't take too much away, but you will see that they're still attached to me for a while. So
yeah, and people will see this in the last episode where we do the barbecue and stuff. But Roy, one of the best helpers out there, he had a lot of concerns, and that was one of his. He's like, "You're going to do what to these guys? You're actually going to duct tape them and put these zip strips on them?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What if they escape and they can't get out of it?" Because I told him, like, "Yeah, we're going to make sure they know how to escape. We got to do the class." And he's like, "Well, what if they get out there and they can't get it off?" And I'm like, "Well, it sucks to be them. They should have paid attention to the class. Like, if he runs around, with his hands duct taped for 24 hours, that's a bummer." So, yeah. So here's another question about you guys knowing each other. So, Jared, did you have prior knowledge of Brent, and did you come up with any strategies going into it?
No, me and Brent, I don't think me and Brent talked one-on-one at all before the challenge. I know in our little texting group that we would go back and forth and talk shit and whatnot. As far as getting to know Brent, all I did was I watched tons and tons of his videos. I watched your videos, Randall. I watched Stoker's videos. And I was just trying to soak in as much information as I could between all three of you. I was looking at how Brent moved in the woods and what was in it, kind of what his mindset is. Watching Stoker's videos, I was getting a lot of tips, and I think he had an escape and evasion and video out. I got some information from, I got to know all three of you through your videos. More or less, just on the YouTube, and then I did a lot of my own research on Google Maps, and I made sure my astronomy skills were kind of up to date, so I knew what stars were where at a certain time of year, a certain time of day, and whatnot, in case I had to use the stars for navigation, and so it was more of a mindset thing. Just trying to get prepared for it all.
Yeah, and I made the Signal group a couple months out, so you guys were kind of dealing with each other in that, and that's where all the shit talking came in, which is still going on. It's hilarious. Like, it's the last group we did for last year, it kind of died as the season was rolling on. You guys are still talking shit in there. That's funny, and I'm screenshotting it all, so it's going to be used. All right, so Brent, what else you want to go over while you're sitting in there? So Stoker kind of pulled a couple different attitudes just to combine it all. So he started off as the angry bad guy yelling at you, and then he switched to offering you water and to get stoked on his flask. and I'm pretty sure there was actually alcohol in there. So
Fucking A, right? There was.
You'd be stoked if you took a sip.
He could smell.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That was awesome, man. You communist bastards. So you're sitting there freezing, and Bill's doing all this stuff, and you got the other bad guy kind of pulling security on you. What else you want to cover with that?
I mean, it was good. Stoker just did a live stream the other day, and he said that people were saying he made a bad enemy, but like I didn't think so. I thought he was doing fantastic. He did fantastic, and blowing the freaking cigarette smoke in my face and all that stuff, man. That looked great. It was legit. I mean, if you could get like what's the word I'm looking for? Just submersive environment. Like it was fantastic, man. The way everything, the lighting in my face, it's like you have a light in your face and you want to sit up there and block it so you can see, but it's like I can barely see Stoker's face. He's got this big light in my face, and then there he is, and he's talking, and his fucking cigarette smoke is coming out and covering my face. I'm not a cigarette smoker, so it's like that sucks, I thought he did a fantastic job.
So did the light actually do its job and bother you? Was it blinding enough?
Oh, it like I said, it's just immersive. It made that immersive environment. Like when you think about being interrogated, like that's a key aspect of it, right? Just having that light in your face, because it's annoying, just like the freaking Meow Meow song. It's just another thing to add on top of that to complete the environment. So I thought he did a fantastic job. Some of the stuff he was saying is, I'm not gonna say like I was about to break or anything, but it was good. I at some point I started to try to play with it a little bit. I tried to do. I was thinking about Rambo 3 with Troutman, and he's getting interrogated by the Russians. I was trying to work the line in where he's like, where are the missiles in my sector? And he's like, close. He's like, how close? I kept wanting to do the line like in your ass, but I couldn't like lead Stoker to say like how close, right? I tried. And there was some other thing. He's like, where's your patrol base? And I was like, a house. He's like, what house? I was like, your mom's house. So, there was a couple things like that happened throughout there. I mean, I don't know what the extent of how long I was sitting in that chair, but it was a long time. So it's hours of listening to fucking Meow Meow and some other bullshit tune that just kept repeating, and then Stoker would come in every like 20 or 30 minutes, pull the blindfold out, fuck with me for a while, and then they put it back on and leave and then come back. So it was interesting to say the least.
So this was purposeful, going from the repetitive music that I knew you would love. I already have a playlist for the next contestants, but we would purposely go to the isolation. So put your blindfold and stuff back on and put those sound isolating headphones on there. Like how did that and then we'd leave you like that for a while. So that should have had an effect like it did for me, where maybe your ears are ringing or you keep hearing the same freaking tune still, even though it's not playing. But how did that work out for you?
I don't know if the sound canceling out did anything per se. I know the tune after a while, because it repeats for a while, and then you kind of get used to it. But I think you looped it in a manner that it would do the repeating, and then all of a sudden it'd start playing again, and then so it's like you kind of snap out of that, and then all of a sudden go back to the repeating. So the stuff you set up was spot on.
Yeah, funny story about that. When I went through my course, they the sensory deprivation for some of the music was putting us up really close to a white wall, which messes with your perception and peripherals and all that. And they were experimenting different types of music on us, and they were copying what they were doing downrange, like the CIA and them. So it's a lot of death metal and black metal and stuff. So I got in there and they put on Slayer, Angel of Death. And I'm like, this is my shit, man. Like, that's exactly what I listened to. And I got happy. And they're like, all right, turn it off. We got one of those. So then they put on like Yoko Ono screaming and shit like that. And I was like, that's when I was like, fuck this, man, I'm out. So here's a question for you, Jared, referencing what you were talking about. How did you specifically learn the astronomy stuff? I struggle with that. So you were talking about learning the stars and all that for when you were out there.
Yeah, so I've always, even as a kid, I was always interested in the stars and space and stuff like that. So I always had a good understanding of it. And your primary constellations like the Big Dipper and the North Star, Orion is another good one. If you could find the Big Dipper, you know where the North Star is, and you know that points north all the time. So one of the very first things I did out there, once it got dark, is I found the Big Dipper so I could find the North Star. So I knew where north was all the time. And I'm glad the weather cooperated to where I was able to do that. Had it been a little cloudy, probably would have struggled with that some. A lot of it comes down to common sense and your sense of direction and navigation. I have a good feeling for all of that kind of stuff, so it comes pretty natural to me. I might not be able to do every little detail of something, but I can work my way through those navigation problems, where the different stars are, the constellations, where the constellations are at certain times of year, certain times of day, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember is, there's all this really good knowledge out there on navigating, but as you said, you know which way is north, but you also have to kind of know where you are and if you need to go north or which direction you need to head. So that's also a crucial element. But Stoker actually taught me something out there on site, and that was pretty cool. So what was that about the moon that you informed us on? That was pretty awesome, man.
Right on. So like most celestial bodies, the moon at least appears to move from east to west, right? And it doesn't matter if it's waxing or waning. So regardless of the moon phase that you're in, looking to see, I don't have a pen, so I'm gonna have to improvise and use my hand, which I probably did down there. But as you can imagine, you have this moon that's traveling from east to west through the sky, and every day it's going around. Well, when it's waxing, and you say you have a crescent moon, you have this shape that's moving across the sky. When it's waning, it's still moving across the sky in the same direction, but now the crescent is on the other side, right? So if we just pause here, and if you can imagine drawing an imaginary line from tip to tip on the moon, and it doesn't matter if it's a half moon, quarter moon, 3/4 moon, it doesn't matter. If you can just imagine connecting these lines, that is a north and south line. And then it's just a matter of determining tip to tip. That's right, bud. I got you. Remembering and knowing that it's moving east to west, so that can give you your east to west and the north and south lines pretty quick. Which is how one of the things I used last year to be able to determine a northeastern azimuth to fly on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I they probably went over that a long time ago and I was sleeping or something, but that was pretty cool to know. So here's another question for you, Stoker. What aspects of visual tracking could someone who's not a master tracker doing it every day realistically put to use in this scenario?
What aspects of visual tracking could someone who's not a master tracker doing it? I wish the question was rephrased a little bit. So, I know
like
a couple,
layman's tracking, maybe.
Yeah, so I know a couple like professional trackers, and they do a lot of search and rescue stuff. And in that aspect, whether it's looking for somebody who's lost and isolated, or whether it's looking for an escaped convict, they're really methodical in their approach, down to looking at each, or trying to at least determine each and every single step, which is good. But when you're under a time crunch, like you're in here, you really don't have the time. So one of the things to do, and this is ultimately, and it goes back to God stuff I learned and picked up on with the mescaleros and the lapans, is you need to know and be able to deduce where your prey is going. What can you assume about their end state, about their destination? And then from there, you can kind of pick up some different patterns to pick up on a trail if you can, in order to be able to find it. But if I can deduce where somebody's going to be going to, then I don't necessarily have to follow on their trail, because if you try to follow each and every single step, you're gonna run out of time, and the hunter or the survivor is gonna be able to increase his time and speed. So knowing where they're going, if you're trying to track them, and then knowing some. If you're tracking a fool, like, they're going to leave a lot of sign and a lot of spoor. But if you're tracking somebody who believes that they're being tracked, then odds are that they're not going to leave that much. So you really have to rely on your intuition of being able to put yourself in their mindset as far as how they're going to get from A to B. You know that they need to sustain warmth at night. You know that they need water. So where can they find these resources so that you can close in on them?
Interesting. So I was actually just writing this down, but I wanted to get into Brent, your what's going through your mind. So you're already you're looking around, seeing what you can take, who's around you, when you might be able to escape. So this guy's asking if you had any indication which direction you were going to head, and that's basically what I was thinking. Like, you're looking for, opportunities to escape. So, but you don't know where the hell you are, and we didn't tell you yet. That's going to come later. So, as you're thinking about when you're going to try to escape, like, what kind of plan, if any, do you have?
Yeah, so I'm sitting in that tent, and there was a bonfire outside, or small campfire. So I kind of have some ambient light, and I could tell that we were in like a little bit of an open clearing area, but there was tree lines around me that weren't too far away. So my intent was, or at least my escape plan was, hey, I'm going to grab this gear, and I just, I knew it was going to be the gear I needed to steal, right? Because it was my gear. I had brought it, but I had to give it as soon as I got on scene, or got to the challenge. I had to give my gear to Randall, so that he could, put whatever was needed into it, whatever. But anyways, like, I knew I had to take that gear. And I remember from the previous season with Stoker and Coleman, when they first hit the ground running, I remember they had, like, inside one of their pouches on the gear that they were issued was like a card that had an azimuth on it. So, like, I knew that at least. So my idea was I was going to grab this gear that I saw hanging on the back of the chair, which was my gear. So and there's no other gear in the tent. So it's like, I knew I had to take that with me for sure. And I was kind of banking on the fact that there was going to be some sort of card inside the gear that gave me an azimuth. But regardless, like, first priority one was, hey, get this equipment and get the fuck out of there, get to the nearest tree line. And then once I'm in the tree line, get as deep as I can into it. So if they're following me, they lose me in that tree line at some point. And then I needed to get, enough time distance gap between the two that I could stop, get my flexi cuffs completely off, and then go through my gear to, figure out what exactly I got on me. So.
Yeah, that's cool. You mentioned the information from last year. Like, every year I do this, we're going to change up little details like that. So that will be identified very easily in the coming episodes, that how we did it last year versus this year. So can't give it away, but yeah, that's I'm hearing you say that. I'm glad we changed little details like that up, because I knew you guys had watched the stuff, and I know anybody else coming in the future is going to watch the stuff. So Stoker, if I forget, you've been helping me keep my head clear. If I forget to change details like that, you definitely got to beat me up on that. So I
Yeah.
don't think people realize, like, you know, a lot of this is me doing the editing and putting all this together and stuff. But like all this planning going into it, like I would have been lost without Stoker. He was a mastermind behind the scenes. I could finally bounce some ideas off of somebody leading up to this, you know, because I got all this stuff in my head and I put it on paper and it all looks good, you know, but as we know in the military, you got to war game stuff. You got to have people to put the red hat on, tell you if something sucks or not. And my friends and family are pretty cool, but I usually just get the like, that sucks or that's dangerous thing. Don't do it. But Stoker was really good at like, well, maybe try it this way, or how about approach it this way. And so that was pretty cool. And I think people will see that kind of going into it, you know, all the changes that were implemented and stuff, that I had extra help. Because the first season, you know, is not to say it was easy or anything, but a lot of this SERE stuff wasn't in there because I just didn't know. I had no idea how it would look on camera or any of that stuff. So yeah, Stoker saved my ass. Just wanted to give him a shout out on that. All right. Well, we can, we're going to slowly wrap this up. If you guys have any final questions for these guys, go ahead and start dropping them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. So I see a lot of Baroons talk. We didn't have any Baroons out there. No weather Baroons, but there's, I know people are going to ask about the technology and everything. Like you guys will see changes in that stuff. There's a lot of people I'm talking to, like local agencies, that I want to get involved, just to try to grow this and make it more interesting. So like that stuff's going to, you know, probably be rolled out soon, but, this is going to be an evolving thing. So the event is the priority. Having the event go well, you guys have some fun and get challenged and get some training out of it. That's the number one priority. And then the show, that's kind of just for extra, you know, but pretty much every year, this is going to have a lot of different things to it. So, as far as looking at last year's compared to this year's, so Jared, we know you did a lot of spying, and you were like a member on my channel. So I couldn't do too many behind the scenes stuff before you came out there, because I'm like, damn it, this guy's gonna know what's going on. So looking at the first season, you know, what kind of well, you know, no, scratch that. We're not gonna get into that. All right. Let's get into some final thoughts as people put comments. Sorry, I was thinking about something and we got to save that for the next episode. So
Actually, I wanted to add something real quick, Randall.
All right, go ahead.
So as far as the astronomy stuff goes, we'll go back to that for just a minute here. There's an app that you can get. It's called Google Sky. You can download it from Google Play Store. And it'll show you every star, planet, constellation, galaxy, whatever is out there right on your phone. And you can take your phone outside and hold it up into the sky and point it around, and it'll show you the exact direction and everything where these stars and planets and whatnot are. And there's also paper charts and star charts and whatnot that you can get too. And some of them have little, like, it's like a little wheel that you can turn, and for the time of year, time of day, or time of night, I should say, that you can get, and you can study the astronomy part of it as well.
Cool. Here's another question on radios. So can you talk about radios, what frequencies work best in the AO, and anything we changed? So communications, a lot of people outside the military have no idea how important that is. Without good communications, nothing happens. So there was a lot of things we coordinated, like you guys will see, and you saw in the first season, like the hunter getting brought in. A lot of that's done without comms, because you can't talk through a huge mountain with radios. There's you know, I've been playing around that area for probably 6 years now. So there's set frequencies that I know on the UHF band that people don't use. And I had most of those frequencies set. And then we got another pack of radios, and for whatever reason, they changed the firmware and it wouldn't talk on certain frequencies or bandwidths. So I had to kind of on the ground update those frequencies. So that meant putting all these frequencies in the radios and monitoring all of them. Well, we had 3 frequencies. So we had the HQ channel, we had hunter to hunter. So that would be Stoker acting as the scout, talking to the hunters on their own freak. And then we had HQ to Survivor. So Survivor had their own freak. So every one of those I had to set on the radios, and every time I was driving around the area for fun, I had to monitor those and see if other people were talking on them. So that was the major pain. And then I think toward the end, we actually had a little bit of interference coming in on, I believe, the Survivors channel. So I've already changed that one, but we already, me and Roy have started, we've been improving our comms out there all the time. And the roving talk, that HQ truck we drive around in, that is a big help because, we got almost 1,000 feet from where they're inserted to where they're supposed to get to, at least the first time around. And all these mountains and extreme terrain features, like without a repeater, those radios ain't talking. So they're all line of sight. But the roving talk helps. And plus we got all these guys on vehicles out there. And you guys saw in the first episode, Stoker and I and Roy, we drive around, check out the area, make sure there's no last minute hazards popping up, meth head cook sites, something like that. And we're also getting radio checks all throughout the area just to make sure we know where we can talk. And so having the mobility, we're working on getting some repeaters out there and some better technology, but having the mobility is the most important because if you couldn't talk to somebody for whatever reason, we got 2 ATVs out there rolling around kind of doing their own thing. And then we got the roving talk that would kind of follow the guys up. So yeah, that's a good question, man, because comms are they're key. Did you have something to add, Brent? Looked like you were wanting to say something.
Oh no, I was just the comms, I thought were pretty good throughout the challenge. So I was just nodding my head in agreement.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we can do our last rounds. So we're coming up on episode 3. I'm actually going to be out in the mountains watching that live with you guys. That'll be cool. So give the Starlink another run through, trying to watch a HD live video. So Brent, final thoughts, man. Putting you on the spot. Go.
Oh, sorry, it cut out on me real quick. What was the question? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts on the series, on your experience out there.
All right. So I'm glad that I'm finally free. I'm on my own, and you guys are going to start seeing the heart of the challenge now. So it's now that hooking and jabbing, fighting the elements, and getting hunted to try to make it to the end point. And it's hard to grasp and comprehend like how much went into them doing everything that they did and pulling all that off. With me being unexpected and everything else, it was just it's pretty good. And we want to point out, because I saw it was mentioned a couple times in the show, is Stoker calling me a Crucible Marine. So some of you might know what that means. So in the late 90s, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Krulak, came out with a Crucible. And so essentially Stoker's just calling me a boot. He's just trying to get under my skin. If you guys don't know, Stoker was a Marine in the early mid-90s. So he went in the Marine Corps way before I did. And so that's all he's doing as part of his interrogation, is trying to get under my skin and get a rise out of me and everything. So when you guys hear him call me a Crucible Marine, that's what he's doing. So in any event, guys, we're going to start getting into the big picture of the event now. So I'm past the, getting interrogated, and now I'm going to be out in the elements and trying to make my way to the endpoint. So it's going to get interesting. And we got the old swabby dog down there, Jared, hunting my ass. So that's all I got.
All right. So Jared, we're about to start getting into the actual hunting. So what do you want to say about that? What are people gonna look for as far as your approach, trying to find this 7 foot tall freaking Bigfoot Marine running around out there?
Well, first of all, I'm coming for you, Brent. I think that's the theme from this evolution here. But no, I think everybody's going to be really surprised on our locations to each other throughout the entire event, and how close we were and how far apart we were, and that we didn't even know it. It's a big area out there, and you think you're being noisy and you think sound's traveling, but you're crashing through this stuff, and sometimes that sound doesn't travel either. And a lot of it has to do with atmospheric conditions and ambient noise and everything. There was a few times I think we were within a couple 50 yards of each other at some points, and neither one of us knew it. So it's a common sense game, and it's also a skills game, and you have to have a little bit of everything to be able to do this.
All right, Stoker.
Yeah, I just want to give a huge shout out to both of these badasses, for raising their hands and coming out, because ultimately, for them it's a training event, and you can only get out what you put in, and they both, went in, bare knuckles, fighting, tooth and nail, themselves, the environment, and each other, and just did a hands-off, badass job, and count that as a call out to any other badass out there. If you think you got some, come, this is the place and time to be able to do your medal, and more on that to follow about episode 5, right? Somewhere in there. But that's all I got, brother.
All right. So the last thing I got is what is everybody thinking of the news story, the news stories that are going along with these episodes? You guys missed it, but the second one is up now. That released a couple minutes ago. So you guys can watch that when we get off of here. But this is breaking news. We got some real news crews, following y'all's story.
Can you play it in here so we get a reaction?
Yeah, we can do that. I can actually upload it straight to here. I got the I did a low bandwidth one, so it'll actually play. So you guys want to see the breaking news story, the next one?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I figured that's my new marketing strategy. I figured we should actually have some fake news to go along with it.
So it's going to air on CNN or what?
Probably. I mean, they get a shout out in the next one. Oh, that's 3. All right.
Their ratings can't get any worse, so it wouldn't hurt.
Well, their ratings might improve from this one because I'm actually using them. Like Anderson Cooper himself is going to jump in. And of course, we got to talk to the White House. All right, here we go. Let's see if it'll play. Back to our ongoing coverage from the occupied territory, 1 week after the Marine veteran Brent was captured.
Keep moving.
The unknown group responsible for this has moved Brent to an isolated location, and they have begun to interrogate him.
What are you doing here?
Locals from the area who support the group that captured Brent have made claims that Brent has committed crimes against humanity and released this video footage as evidence.
Food riot in progress. Approximately 1,500 civilians.
The crowd is unarmed. Repeat, unarmed. 9-9er.
The hell with you.
Innocent unarmed people down there. Cease fire! Cease fire!
Not fake news, CNN verified this footage as being real. So, fuck that Brent guy.
Goddamn communist bastards.
Friendly aerial reconnaissance in the area has detected movement beyond the camp, making it appear as though Brent has escaped and is now evading the partisan group. As usual, the White House had in-depth remarks on the topic. At this point, all Americans are fairly confident that Brent will just die out there all alone. So you got to have an information campaign against stuff. So, you know, I figured we'd use some real footage of you just mowing people down. That's perfect propaganda video the enemy's going to use.
It's bullshit. All of it. It's a lie. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll keep doing those because they're fun, you know, and yeah, it seems like you gotta have fun with sharing this stuff. I got tired of spamming with people with, hey, go watch my shit. You know, it's like, well, hey, here's some fake news, man. Go watch this shit. So,
hey, Stoker, what was your reaction to the Arnold voice? I don't know if you knew if I could do that or not.
No, man, that shit was on point. I mean, I broke my bearing, right? Which is why I had to let you get a sniff of the old flask and know to answer somebody's question. I was not going to let him drink any. But I could see your face on that when you took a whiff.
Oh yeah,
dude,
legit.
I jacked the volume up on that because you can hear Brent's voice echoing in that entire fucking valley when he started yelling. So I was like, this is great, man. We got meow music, Milli Vanilli. We got Brent yelling at people. Like, if somebody's out here hiking and camping, they're going to be worried. Like something seriously. I saw a guy hogtied in a truck drive by 30 minutes ago, and now people are down there yelling, playing Milli Vanilli. So what the fuck's going on out here?
Yeah, I kept waiting for an FBI HRT team to like come ziplining in, rescue me.
Yeah, maybe in the future ones we might have some legal issues, but for now it was all good. My main concern is usually just, well, of course, y'all's safety, because that's all pretty hazardous stuff we're doing, but it's also like people rolling up on us. But luckily, you know, that's such a remote area, and we do our checks beforehand, and you know, it's public land. You can't put up gates and all that and shoot people that come in, but we try to kind of control it. So that's all I got, guys. I appreciate you guys joining us. I don't see any more questions popping up. If you guys got something else to add, now's the time.
Good work on the episode.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Oh, Sergeant Major, the feds will not be coming to rescue you. Yeah.
Yeah, I got no illusion. Yeah, after hearing the president speak on that news announcement, I got no illusions.
Yeah, I'm trying to set it up to where people are just losing hope. You know, yeah, he's going to die out there. Oh, well, he's a Marine. We can lose a couple. Well, we got to
not expendable.
You're an expensive Marine though. At this point, you're not like a private that, you know, cannon fodder. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me on this one. So I will try to do another one for episode 3, but I might be kind of remote. So we'll see how it works. If not, then we'll definitely do one for the next couple episodes. And yeah, once again, the next one airs next Sunday. I think it's the 18th, right? 19th of February, same time. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1500 Central Standard Time. And I'll be in there for the live chat again. And hopefully we can do another chat like this. So, yeah, once again, thanks for joining me, guys. You know, awesome event, awesome show. And you guys made it awesome. So we'll see you guys in the next episode, the next chat.
Right on. Stay
All right.
stoked.
Take care.
All right.
You crayon eater.